formed against me shall prosper. The word doesn't say that the weapon won't be made. The word don't say that the intention of the weapon maker won't be to harm you. The word don't say that they won't attempt to use it on you. But what the word does say is no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So no matter who's over there making that gun, no matter what that man is thinking about while he's making that gun, no matter, don't worry about the fact that he might raise it to his shoulder and act like he's going to use the gun. And that might be his intention. But praise God, the word says no weapon formed. It didn't say some, it didn't say a little bit. It says no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
I'm at my house right now in Atlanta, where they basically done clean out my whole house. My living room. I want to thank all my fans for their support. And that's what happens when you get, well, let people too close to you. People you've known for 25, 30 years. This is what happens. Well, I wash my clothes. Washing machines, everything. Took everything. So, it's all love, though. I'm gonna keep my head up, keep working on this album, man. You can't do nothing about something you can't do nothing about. But I do thank, the police department here for being quick to hop on everything and get some of my stuff back. And like I say, I thank all the fans from around the world who's been, sending out messages and everything and prayers and staying positive, keeping me positive through the whole thing. And just God bless y'all, man. One.
Yeah, go ahead and storm me. Point your finger at me. Turn the world against me. But only God can mute me. I admit that I fired some people. I admit that I hired new people. I admit that those people I fired on my mama was crooked ass people. I admit that I don't own my music. I admit that I roll on my music. Want it back, but they don't wanna do it. What the fuck, nigga? I wrote that music. I did that bump and grind. I did that 12 play. I did that fed up. I changed the damn game. So I deserve me a fair play. So put some respect on my damn name.
Live to you. Facebook, live to you. Radio, live to you. Radio, fuck you.
It's strange how the media and blogs will find any and every reason to bring up R. Kelly's name, but they won't never come on their platform and talk about how their platform has been used to spill out a whole lot of propaganda and a whole lot of misinformation. Fun fact, did you know that there was a law passed that makes it legal for these news outlets to purposely put out propaganda? So, when I listen to these people compare this character, Blueface, to R. Kelly, and then reference his alleged cult, I'm sitting here scratching my head because they still ain't showed us R. Kelly cult. It's been almost 2 years this man has been incarcerated behind all these allegations that emerged via social media. All these claims that he was holding hostages in this cult. And to this day, where is the cult? Yet, they want to make light of this situation. Has anyone ever just stopped and thought about that? I mean, come on, what is a cult? Most people recognize a cult as being a group and it's particularly surrounding religious beliefs. And I could say quite a few things are cults, like those that practice Scientology. Some people view the Nation of Islam as a cult. It's so many religious groups that could be boxed into cult-like activities. And then the fact that we are in this age where so many celebrities and entertainers and public figures are building cult-like followings, it's kind of comical that they were able to make everybody think so negatively about R. Kelly with this bullcrap cult allegation. Nonetheless, the fact that this guy Blueface is pretty much setting himself up for what R. Kelly is experiencing is something that should be discussed. Considering this is something we have seen done in other areas such as Love and Hip Hop, Hollywood X's. It's so many shows that fly in girls and fly in participants. And that could easily be a setup, a whole storyline to fit in a specific law that was put into place for certain individuals. R. Kelly sits in jail being accused of so many allegations, including the Mann Act, which is exclusively flying people in for sexual activity. And if you don't know your history about how these people created this law just to target an individual, then you'll never understand why I feel this is exactly what's being done to manufacture this case against R. Kelly. So when we see these other celebrities falling in the same path, I think more people should speak up. I don't feel like this guy is operating a cult. However, this should be the perfect opportunity to explore why women have such low self-esteem that they will tolerate this type of behavior. And then, depending on the type of woman it is, she could always use the type of Me Too agendas in play right now to turn around and play the victim role. And a person can be incarcerated unjustly behind those allegations. So I think more people ought to think before we throw out all these salacious stories. Because let's think about where this all started and how it's easy to believe all the slanderous headlines that they've put out about R. Kelly. But I challenge you to just think about this one thing. One thing. They sold us this story about this cult, about R. Kelly. But they did not one time come and tell us about all the instances where these so-called accusers have been discredited. They haven't told you about how majority of the participants have shady and questionable backgrounds, especially people like Charlemagne the God. They didn't tell you a lot when they put all this propaganda in your face. But I'm going to tell you something that stands out to me the most. Because one person should have drew the red flag. And that was one so-called special witness in which came from his first trial, Lisa Van Allen. Let's review something she said. And I'm going to point out a couple things that a lot of people need to start talking about and stop feeding into the propaganda. It makes no sense what they've told you. Watch this.
Okay. And the first threesome you had, was it with an underage girl?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so it was an older woman.
Not older. She was more my age, probably
Your
about
age.
17, 18, so she wasn't underage.
Okay. At what point was the threesome with the underage girl actually happening?
I don't know exactly the point, but I know it actually happened at his home. And it happened at his home, and I was 17 years old. So it wasn't in the very beginning, but it wasn't too long after the first threesome.
Okay, now how'd you know the girl was underage?
He told me she was his 16-year-old neighbor, but I found out 2 years later that she was actually 14 at the time.
Wow. Okay. And he was actually filming these threesomes.
Yes. Pretty much every threesome he filmed.
Okay, because I remember I saw an interview with the reporter that was basically following him the whole time.
Yeah.
The one that he mentioned in the song, and he was talking about, I guess, the wood room is how you guys described it.
Colorado room.
Colorado room, and what he was saying was that there's actually cameras built into the walls. Like this was a permanent part of the house, and I guess when he ended up selling the house, the cameras were still there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
See, I didn't know that. I know he had like a tripod and the camera set up and the bright lights, so he would do that.
So let's talk about the biggest lie of them all. They're relying on these people who weren't even credible in the first trial, who claim now that they were underage. However, if you just use your common sense, you do the math, listen to her story, she will tell you she met him on Home Alone set, and this was in 98. Her birth date or birth month and year is June 1980. So I don't understand why people would even keep listening to her when she keeps lying about the simplest details. But to make herself seem like a minor, of course they're going to play with this age, just like I've been stating with many other people. They're manipulating facts to sell you these stories, but all you got to do is check them out. All these slips in the tongue, and how even, let's talk about the tape. They're telling you they're basically extorting this man in so many words. In his case currently, they're telling you he obstructed justice, but they're not going to charge these individuals for trying to extort him. They're not going to charge the individuals who were passing around alleged child porn. They're not going to charge anybody or hold anybody accountable outside of R. Kelly. Make it make sense.
Were you doing any of that stuff with him yourself or no?
No, he actually did ask me about urinating on me, on my butt. And I told him, I didn't tell him anything. Actually, I just kind of laughed it off and was like, kind of like that. So he has a way of kind of fishing for what he can and can't do and to you and things like that. So when he saw that I didn't just right away agree with it, then he knew that that wasn't nothing I was interested in doing. So it never came up again.
Okay. But you went ahead and stole this tape, and then you gave it to one of his artists?
Yes.
Can you say who that was?
Yeah, his name was Keith. It was when he was in his group Talent. It was actually they became friends of mine because they were staying in one of the same hotels that I had a room in, and Rob would give them only $25 to eat with. This is what they told me, and they would see me ordering all this room service and stuff, like if they walk by the hallway and see my trays, out in the hall and stuff. And they were, I said, well, I can order y'all food. So that's how we got cool. So I would just order them food all the time. And, that's how we became cool.
Okay. So now you have this tape. You gave it to one of his artists to hold. And this is before the charges and everything?
Yes. Well, he had actually it was, wasn't it? Yeah. It was.
Okay. And at one point, he finds out that you took that tape.
Yeah, he did. He found out.
And how did that go?
That was in 2007. Yeah, he found out about it. And he actually asked me to come to Chicago. And I came to Chicago. We talked about it. He asked me, did I think I could get possession of it? And I told him I did. And I actually spoke with Keith and got him to come to Chicago with the tape.
Okay. So I guess Kelly's lawyers said that you tried to get $300,000 for that tape.
Yeah, no. We didn't try to get anything for anything.
Okay,
No,
so
he
there was
actually, no, he did give them money for the tape, but he gave them, it was his idea. He said, I will give you 250,000 for the tape. So it wasn't, they didn't say, oh, if you give me, I have this and if you want it, you get, no, they didn't even want to deal with him. They didn't want to talk to him. They didn't want to give him the tape, nothing. So no, it wasn't anything like that.
Okay, but you just offered him $250,000. So
Yeah, he did. He offered them, but they'd be, I mean, wouldn't you take it if somebody offered you some money? I mean,
no,
that's not blackmail if you offered it,
Okay. And
So
were you involved in that financial transaction? Did you get part of that money?
I was involved.
Now, the icing on the cake is Van Allen sitting here expecting us to believe that this man was just walking around with alleged child porn, when actuality, I believe, if he had a collection of tapes, it was music. We've heard how this man is dyslexic, meaning he has issues with reading and writing, so he would record so much. Is it plausible that they're trying to sugarcoat the fact that you have people such as Wayne Williams who have come out on record stating that when he met R. Kelly, he had a bag full of music? So that would be more likely for a person like me to believe that a musician would be walking around with music versus illegal child porn. On that same token, who would just be walking around with all these tapes and allegedly on one strange day you leave this bag with all this illegal stuff in it for a person to rummage through only for that to end up in the hands of other people? She's saying she didn't want it in his hands, but she gives it to a whole different person. That makes no sense. On top of that, there seems to have been a discrepancy from the beginning in the origins of the tape. There's so many people that have made claims as to seeing and having a tape, including his brother, including people saying a cousin of his passed a tape. It's just so much going on with this alleged evidence they claim to have today. It should be obvious why people are still speaking up on the corruption surrounding R. Kelly. So you may ought to think twice before you continue to fuel the propaganda and keep throwing other artists in the same boat. Because if you look at it, go all the way back to the 90s. Just think about all the artists that they could pull this Me Too cult bullcrap with. Leave your comments below. Make sure you like and share. Have a good day.
Lord, please forgive me how I'm living. I was born to drive.